Hey, what's up, guys? Okay, this is one of my favorite novels here, the decadent 19th century classic, Rebours, Against Nature or Against the Grain by Georges Carl Huysmans, a French writer who's half Dutch, hence the name. What can I say about this novel? He was a naturalist writer, a realist writer, Huysmans, when he started. And then he felt kind of constricted by that style of writing, and he did this bizarre novel, very influential, essentially without a narrative. I mean, it's essentially one character and his self-imposed life, trying to make his own world, so to speak, and going through all kinds of almost horrific. Uh, Basically, he's slowly kind of going insane, living this life as the last aristocrat of a dying line. He has a lot of money and not much else. He indulges every little whim, and he develops some weird, you could say fetishes, but not really. He's kind of This novel predicts actually a lot of way of life, which is the whole point I bring up about the decadent movement, the decadent writers, the poets, and whatnot. In addition to laying the groundwork for horror, by the way, the decadents did that. Um, they were predicting a lot of things. These people, the writers, the artists, the poets, they sensed something dark was coming, as they say, the fin de soleil, the end of the century. There was ennui, there was a kind of exhaustion, there was kind of a sense of dread of the coming century. And it turns out that they were right. Now, of course, the reputation of these writers and artists, they were drug addicts, bisexuals, syphilitics, everything you could think of. Oscar Wilde was greatly influenced by this novel, which was not had not been translated into English yet. But of course, he read French. It was mentioned in Dorian Gray, the Portrait of Dorian Gray. There was even a chapter where he pretty much kind of cribbed the writing style of Huysmans in it. And of course, this was even mentioned in the infamous trial that Wilde was in of this book. Now, Huysmans is very interesting as well. Like many of the decadents, he found the limits of nihilism and pessimism, and became a lay Catholic to the end of his days. Very interesting, trying to find tradition through the modernism of the time, which had already sensed that the bourgeoisie, the middle classes, the growing Americanization of Europe, uh, bankers and businessmen and money and commodities, was something repulsive, even to a dying aristocrat who still had some kind of dignity, regardless of the very bizarre fetishes this person had. So I'll give an example of the writing style. Very florid. Clark Ashton Smith was greatly influenced by this, and I would probably argue Anne Rice as well. Here he's describing one of his parties at his this house he has built in the French countryside, where the kitchen is almost like the galley of a ship, and he designs it that way, going to great lengths to mimic everything from scents to the sense of the ship, like the kitchen moving around. Very bizarre, very decadent. All right, so we'll go here. One of these meals, modeled on an 18th century original, had been a funeral feast to mark the most ludicrous of personal misfortunes. The dining room, draped in black, opened out onto a garden metamorphosed for the occasion, the paths being strewn with charcoal, the ornamental pond edged with black basalt filled with ink, and the shrubberies replanted with cypresses and pines. The dinner itself was served on a black cloth adorned with baskets of violets and scabious. Candelabra shed an eerie green light over the table, and tapers flickered in the chandeliers. While a hidden orchestra played funeral marches, The guests were waited on by naked negresses, wearing only slippers and stockings and cloth of silver embroidered with tears. Dining off black-bordered plates, the company had enjoyed turtle soup, Russian rye bread, ripe olives from Turkey, caviar, mullet botargo, black puddings from Frankfurt, game served in sauces, the color of licorice and boot polish, truffle jellies, chocolate creams, plum puddings, nectarines, pears and grape juice syrup, mulberries and black heart cherries. From dark-tinted glasses they had drunk the wines of Le Mans and Rousseline, of Tenedos, Valdepeñas, and Oporto, and after coffee and walnut cordial, they had rounded off the evening with kvass, porter, and stout. Obviously, everything here is a dark food item. That kind of writing fills this. It's almost like you can see the colors and the nuance of the kind of colors and the scents, and there's a whole chapter he does where the character decides to collect only the most bizarre flowers, and then decides to go a step further and get only artificial flowers. In a way, there's a degree of an art. The guy tries to make like his own artificial world to stay away from society that he despises. It's kind of a misanthrope. So as it goes on, the whole thing is a guidebook. Like I said, basically the author writes his own personal tastes, what artists he likes, what literature he likes, what music he likes. This could be a decadent guidebook. If you wanted to be a dandy, a real hipster in this day and age, you just follow this. You grow a mustache, you have a jewel-encrusted walking stick, maybe a little pistol, and you just decry the bourgeoisie, which is pretty easy to do. I mean, pretty much, guys, the whole middle class Americanization of the last 150 years, we've always kind of rejected it and sensed that there was something wrong with it. We couldn't really know what. Well, now we do, don't we? Yeah. I always argue I have more of a continental instinct from my background than any Anglo instinct. But anyway, we'll go to another. There's another cool. There's so many great scenes in this. There's a scene where he describes a plant woman vampire during one of his fever dreams as he's slowly going insane. Where is it? I think I missed it. Hold on. This is live, folks. Yeah, he describes the frightening irritation of the mouth and breasts discovered on the skin of the body spots of bistre and copper, and recalled in horror. The woman's eyes fascinated him. He went slowly towards her. He's trying to dig his heels into the ground to hold himself back and falling over deliberately, only to pick himself up and go on again. Right? Yes, this is a plant woman vampire come to life, but it's all just a hallucination or a fever dream. All right, so we'll go here. I'm just going to some sections I like. Some really good. There's actually a lot of good stuff in here. Let's see. I like this term here. He had laid bare the morbid psychology of the mind that had reached the October of its sensations. It had listed the symptoms of souls visited by sorrows, singled out by spleen. Right? I don't know. It just sounds like me. There's so much to go here. Oh, this I like a lot here too. This part right here. Where, like I said, the decadents are the prophets of the future. The late 19th century, like them, Nietzsche and others, they had realized what was going on when scientists were telling you the opposite at the time. They were telling you that things were going to be a wonderful future, and these guys nailed it. All right. Here, filled with a cold fear, the implacable legitimist delivered a frontal assault for once, contrary to his usual custom. By the way of peroration, oh boy, fight off this round of abuse of the skeptics. Right? Now here he's describing Catholic critiques of society, but this is obviously written in the book here. As for you, you doctrinaire utopians who shut your eyes to human nature, you ardent atheists who feed on hatred and delusion, you emancipators of women, you destroyer of family life, you genealogists of the simian race, you whose name was once an insult in itself, be well content. You will have been the prophets, and your disciples will be the pontiffs of an abominable future. 1884, he wrote this. Pretty much nailed exactly what happened. That's why I keep saying the decadents are prophets. Okay? Not just drug addicted, bisexual, jerk offs. So now, Edgar Allan Poe, okay, one of the favorite novels of this character and of the writer himself, are these two here. Gustave Flaubert's The Temptation of St. Anthony, which I'm reading right now, and of course the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. Poe is mentioned in this as the favorite author many times, and of course Baudelaire and others. I'm going to review this book at some point. This is amazing, and I'm reading this now, and this is really crazy. I know, very, very succinct analysis. It's crazy, man. Yeah. Let's see. So essentially, the character slowly is going insane, but he realizes it. He's not unself-aware, and it leads to a very funny ending where you think the tragic ending is in the making, and the doctor near the end of the story pretty much tells this dandy, eccentric, he pretty much gives him straight up, very practical advice, which is basically like, man up, get back to normal life, and, stop, living like a neat or an autiste. Very funny. Okay. I like this part here. I'm just probably going to round this out. The thoughts made his future look gloomier than ever, his horizon darker and more threatening. Does that sound familiar? Okay. At what point of contact could there possibly be between him and that bourgeois class, which had gradually climbed to the top, taking advantage of every disaster to fill its pockets, stirring up every sort of trouble to command respect for its countless crimes and thefts? Wow. After the aristocracy of birth, it was now the turn of the aristocracy of wealth, the caliphate of the counting house, the despotism of the Rue de Sentier, the tyranny of commerce with its narrow-minded venal ideas, its selfish, rascally instincts. This was the vast bagnio of America transported to the continent of Europe. This was the limitless, unfathomable, immeasurable scurviness of the financier and the self-made man, beaming down like a shameful sun on the idolatrous city, which groveled on its belly, chanting vile songs of praise before the impious tabernacle of the bank. Well, crumble then, society, perish, old world, cried Des Esseintes, roused to indignation by the ignominious, oh boy, can't pronounce that, spectacle he had conjured up, and the sound of his voice broke the oppressive spell the nightmare had laid on him. All right. There's my boy Schopenhauer again. All right. But the interesting thing at the end is he realized at last that the arguments of pessimism were powerless to comfort him. The only impossible belief in a future life could bring him peace of mind. Okay, so now, to sum this up, I had mentioned many of the decadents, even in their last days, many of them became Catholics. Now, I'm not telling you, well, you're going to become Catholic or whatever as a solution to the modern problems, which were predicted back in the 19th century by the poets and writers like this man. What I could say is that it just shows you that the idea of something bigger, something transcendent, something beyond humanity, in the end, is really what we're really all about. Okay? And of course, I like this part here, and he describes this author here, Barbie de Aurevilly, who had mentioned that after reading this novel, Rebours, after such a book, the only choice left open to the author is between the muzzle of a pistol and the foot of the cross. The choice is made. Very, very interesting, very challenging. Rebours, like all of us dissidents today, against the grain. Later.